Late-night television took an unexpected turn last night when Representative Jasmine Crockett appeared on The Late Show with Stephen Colbert, sparking a confrontation that quickly became a viral sensation. Crockett, the Texas Congresswoman known for her fiery rhetoric and sharp political insight, walked onto the set ready to challenge Colbert, a host famous for his biting political satire. What was meant to be a standard interview spiraled into an explosive exchange that left the audience stunned and the internet buzzing. The show began like any other, with Colbert opening the conversation with a typical late-night question, asking whether Crockett was there to defend her political record or simply to engage in a war of words. Crockett's response was anything but typical. "Stephen, I'm here because I don't run," she said, immediately flipping the script. She turned the focus back on Colbert, questioning how often he avoids confronting the real issues himself. This exchange set the tone for the evening. What started as a light-hearted back and forth quickly escalated into a battle of wits. Colbert, leaning on his comedic roots, played a clip of Crockett's recent viral House speech, in which she skillfully dismantled an opponent's argument. The audience laughed and applauded her performance, but Colbert, ever the professional, pushed forward with his own challenge. "Impressive," and he said, "but is there a plan behind the passion, or is it just noise?" Crockett's response was sharp and unapologetic. She asserted that her strategies were clear to anyone paying attention, accusing Colbert of prioritizing laughs over substance. In just a few minutes, the interview veered wildly off script. Insiders on the production team later admitted they were caught off guard by the sudden shift in dynamics. Crockett's refusal to play the typical role of a guest, smiling through jabs and navigating the conversation with ease, seemed to throw Colbert off balance. By the end of the segment, sources claimed that Colbert's usual tight control over his interviews was slipping. The studio audience, split between cheers and gasps, could feel the tension in the air, and political analysts immediately began speculating about how this might mark a shift in the way elected officials engage with late-night shows. Was Crockett's behavior a calculated move to assert her power and clout? Or was this an impromptu moment that spiraled out of control? The answer is still unclear, but what is certain is that the night was far from over. Sources close to the production reported that the real fireworks were just beginning, with Crockett doubling down on her stance and Colbert scrambling to regain control. As tensions mounted, the confrontation reached its boiling point. After Crockett accused Colbert of dodging real issues, insiders claim Colbert decided to push back harder, turning the interview into a full-blown showdown. The host, known for his talent at turning even the toughest topics into comedic fodder, took aim at Crockett's district. "Your district's got sky-high poverty," he remarked, pressing her on why she was spending so much time battling in Congress instead of addressing the issues back home. Crockett didn't miss a beat. "Poverty is not a soundbite solution," she responded, her voice steady and unflinching. She then pivoted, criticizing tax breaks for the wealthy that, according to her, Colbert and others in his circle choose to ignore. The room was divided. Some in the audience cheered Crockett on, while others murmured in dissent. But Colbert, never one to back down, quickly shifted gears. He introduced a supposed ethics probe linked to Crockett's campaign funds, one that, according to sources, was a fictional scandal concocted for the moment. As a headline flashed on the screen, Colbert pushed her to explain. Crockett wasn't fazed. "That's a ghost story," she snapped, dismissing the story as media fluff, and, in a move that stunned the audience, she flipped the heat right back on him. "What about your big pharma sponsors?" she asked, suggesting that Colbert's show might be financially supported by corporations with questionable ethics. It was at this point that the interview truly derailed. Insiders revealed that producers were signaling for a break, hoping to bring some semblance of control back to the situation, but Crockett was relentless. She refused to pause, and the tension between the two intensified. "You don't cut away that easy," Crockett declared, her voice cutting through the air as the mic remained hot. Sources claimed Colbert's production team was rattled. One producer later admitted that they hadn't been prepared for a guest as unrelenting as Crockett, and it showed. The audience, sensing the unraveling, fed off the energy. The noise grew louder as the segment continued, and within minutes, clips from the interview began circulating online, quickly gaining traction. Political commentators were quick to weigh in. Some praised Crockett's strategy, calling it a masterstroke that turned a late-night appearance into a platform for speaking truth to power and calling out the media's games. Others were critical, arguing that the confrontation had crossed a line and disrupted the purpose of the late-night format. But one thing was certain: the night's biggest twist was yet to come. As the interview reached its peak, the tensions between Crockett and Colbert reached a breaking point that no one, neither the crew nor the audience, could contain. The AWIM production team, blindsided by the intensity of the confrontation, struggled to regain control. The atmosphere was electric, with everyone in the studio aware that they were witnessing something far beyond a typical late-night interview. After the segment, Crockett's move was widely analyzed. Her decision to push back against Colbert's provocations wasn't just a political tactic. It was a clear message that she was not going to let herself be pigeonholed by the usual late-night dynamics. For the media, it was a story of a rising political star asserting her power in a space traditionally dominated by comedians and late-night hosts. But what did it all mean for the future of political appearances on late-night shows? Some analysts argued that this confrontation could signal a shift in how elected officials approach these platforms. No longer content to simply laugh along with the host, politicians like Crockett are ready to take the opportunity to challenge the media, question its priorities, and demand a more substantive conversation. The fallout from the interview continued to dominate online discussions long after the show ended. Fans of Crockett rallied behind her, applauding her ability to stand her ground against a seasoned host. At the same time, critics of her approach claimed that she had derailed a conversation that could have been more productive. The debate raged on, with political observers suggesting that this clash could change the way both late-night shows and political interviews are conducted moving forward. In the end, Crockett's appearance on The Late Show with Stephen Colbert was more than just a memorable moment in late-night television history. It was a clash of ideologies, a test of political power, and a reminder that late-night TV is no longer just about jokes and punchlines. It's now a stage for real-time political drama, and it's clear that politicians like Jasmine Crockett are ready to take full advantage of that. The showdown between Representative Jasmine Crockett and Stephen Colbert took a dramatic turn after Crockett refused to let producers cut to a commercial break, sending the segment spiraling into chaos. What followed became a spectacle that not only rattled Colbert but ignited a broader debate about power dynamics in media, particularly in late-night television. Crockett's defiance took the fight to a level rarely seen on TV, and the exchange that followed is now being dissected as one of the most intense confrontations in recent late-night history. Visibly rattled, Colbert attempted to regain his composure, forcing a smile as he said, "You're making this interesting, Jasmine," trying to steer the conversation back into familiar territory. But Crockett wasn't backing down. In an attempt to regain control of the narrative, Colbert fired off a jab about a fictional donor dinner with oil executives. He flashed a doctored image on the screen and asked, "How's that fit your little guy image?" Crockett, however, wasn't fazed. She shot back, calling Colbert's accusation a lie, and directly challenged him. "That was a fundraiser for my community." Without missing a beat, she turned the tables. "You're not a journalist, Stephen. You're a salesman. Who's bankrolling your truth?" Her words hit hard, like a grenade thrown into the middle of the broadcast. The audience's reaction was electric. Some cheered, others booed, but no one could deny the tension in the air. Insiders later described the atmosphere as electric, with the crowd's energy feeding the chaos. Crockett, standing tall and unwavering, addressed the audience directly. "This is what they hide," she said, pointing at Colbert. "The mask's off now." At this point, Colbert, unable to maintain his usual composure, snapped. He slammed his hand on the desk and barked, "That's enough. You don't run this show." But Crockett wasn't finished. With a fierce look, she responded, "It's not your kingdom," and the exchange hit a fever pitch. Producers, sensing the situation was escalating beyond their control, began signaling for security. But the feed remained live, broadcasting every heated word to a stunned home audience. As the tension reached its peak, Colbert, seemingly losing his cool, muttered, "Get her out." The slip of his words, caught by the live microphones, was a defining moment of the night. Crockett heard the muttered command, and she immediately spun on Colbert, declaring, "You don't dismiss me." With an assertive step toward the edge of the stage, she made it clear that she wasn't about to be silenced. Sources say security hesitated, unsure how to handle the situation with a sitting Congresswoman in the middle of a live broadcast. Meanwhile, viewers at home flooded social media with reactions as the controversy unfolded in real time. Analysts quickly weighed in, calling the moment an unprecedented instance of unfiltered television. One political commentator described it as a masterclass in power dynamics, explaining that Crockett had exposed the fragility of the polished late-night show format. By the time the broadcast cut to a break, the damage had been done, and the night's aftermath was shaping up to be a bigger story than the confrontation itself. As soon as the feed went dark, the chaos didn't stop. Inside the studio, Colbert remained seated, staring at the desk where his cracked mug now lay as a silent witness to the tumult. The production team sprang into action, with producers shouting into headsets, trying to figure out how to spin a segment that had so clearly spiraled out of control. One source claimed the control room felt like a war zone, with staff debating whether to lean into the drama for ratings or quickly apologize and bury the incident. Meanwhile, Crockett didn't waste a second. She strode off the set with confidence, her heels echoing down the hallway as she made her way toward the exit. Within just 10 minutes of walking out, she fired off a tweet that would send shockwaves across the internet. "Told y'all I don't play. They can't silence what's real." By sunrise, the tweet had gone viral, amassing over 50,000 retweets. Hashtags like Marg Crockett vs. Colbert and Our Mask Off began trending worldwide as the online reaction to the confrontation erupted. Supporters rallied behind Crockett, with some calling her the voice that broke the late-night machine. One viral post even praised her as a hero for exposing the false narratives that the media often spins. On the other hand, critics slammed her as reckless, accusing her of turning a guest appearance into a cheap publicity stunt. But regardless of where people stood, no one could deny that Crockett had made an impact. Political analysts joined the fray, offering their own interpretations of the confrontation. Some viewed it as a masterstroke in power dynamics, where Crockett didn't just challenge Colbert, but exposed the artificial nature of late-night television. "She didn't just take on Colbert," one pundit said on a morning news panel. "She exposed how fragile these curated spaces are when someone refuses to play along." The media storm surrounding the encounter continued to gain momentum throughout the day. Clips of the confrontation, some from the broadcast and others, taken by audience members on shaky phone cameras, flooded social media platforms like X and TikTok. These clips racked up millions of views, ensuring that Crockett's bold move would remain in the public eye for days to come. As the dust settled, it became clear that the incident wasn't just a memorable moment for late-night television, it was a turning point in the way elected officials interact with media. Crockett's refusal to be silenced and her willingness to challenge Colbert's narrative signaled that politicians could no longer be expected to simply play along in media, spaces controlled by late-night hosts. This moment will likely be remembered as a defining instance where a politician turned the tables on the media, shifting the power dynamic in a space traditionally reserved for comedic jabs and lighthearted banter. In the end, Crockett's appearance on The Late Show wasn't just about a confrontation with Stephen Colbert. It was about exposing the manufactured nature of late-night television and reminding viewers that not every story can be neatly packaged with a punchline. And in doing so, Crockett may have changed the game for future political appearances on late-night TV. The fallout from the confrontation between Representative Jasmine Crockett and Stephen Colbert continued to reverberate, with many suggesting that it could reshape how politicians, especially younger and bolder figures like Crockett, approach media engagements in the future. At The Late Show, the mood was far from celebratory. After the taping, sources say Colbert retreated to his office, bypassing the usual post-show debrief with the staff. One insider overheard him muttering about guests who think they're the star, a rare moment of frustration from a host known for his unflappable charm. Meanwhile, network executives saw a silver lining in the chaos. Overnight ratings soared by 30%, the highest spike in months. "It's a mess, but it's a gold mine," one producer admitted off the record, hinting that the show's team might lean into the controversy instead of downplaying it. However, the blow to Colbert's image was palpable. Pundits speculated that he had underestimated Crockett, expecting her to crumble under his usual wit and jabs, only to find himself outmatched. Meanwhile, Crockett was already capitalizing on the moment. Sources close to her revealed that she spent the early hours after the clash fielding calls from allies in Congress, seeing the incident as an opportunity to rally her base. Rumors swirled of a potential appearance on a rival talk show, with whispers that she might use it to double down on her critique of mainstream media. The silence surrounding the ethics probe and the donor dinner accusations, whether fictional or not, only fueled speculation, with some claiming she was letting the narrative simmer to keep her name in the spotlight. "She's playing chess, not checkers," one political strategist remarked, suggesting that the incident could serve as a springboard for her career, possibly even setting her up for a 2026 Senate run. The broader fallout continued to take shape, with media watchers calling it a wake-up call for late-night TV, a format that has long thrived on predictability but might struggle to survive when guests like Crockett refuse to stick to the script. Some predict that networks will tighten their guest vetting process, while others believe they'll chase the chaos, booking more firebrands to replicate the buzz. For viewers, opinions were sharply divided. Half saw Crockett as a truth-teller, dismantling a smug elite, while the other half viewed Colbert as a victim of an ungracious guest. Online forums exploded with reactions, from memes of Crockett's mic drop moment to doctored clips of Colbert's stunned face captioned, "When your roast backfires." By midday, the headlines were relentless. "Crockett crushes Colbert," one outlet proclaimed, while another asked, "Has late night lost its edge?" Crockett's supporters flooded her district office with calls, urging her to keep up the fight, while Colbert's team scrambled to prepare a carefully crafted statement for the next broadcast, framing the encounter as a lively exchange gone awry. Whatever the spin, it was clear that the night had cemented itself as a turning point, signaling a shift in the way late-night TV and political discourse might unfold in the future.